You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Drew Del Pree. Did I cut you off? So sorry.
It's okay.
But not really.
No, you didn't. You weren't sorry at all.
You have to
You
cut
are
me off.
100% correct. So
How long
tonight...
we work together?
Wahoo?
I said, how long we work together, you have to cut me off. You know.
True. This is true. So tonight is kind of interesting because we were supposed to have another guest who had to reschedule. And so we've got our buddy Mark, who's been helping out and listening to the show and participating. So, hey, dude, what's up?
Not much. Just hanging out. Instead of terrorizing you in chat, I can do it in person now.
There you go. There you go. So what's it's not like we'll take any listener and let them come on the show. Well,
We will.
That's not entirely true.
Well,
but go ahead, Mark.
It's kind of, you were on mine and my co-host podcast, Abyss Gazing Horror Podcast. It's part of a larger group called Victims and Villains. It's actually, Victims and Villains is actually a mental health nonprofit. Lots of web resources on our website. We're actually in the Josh is in the process of finishing up the lineup for the Horrific Hope Film Festival in April. That's I think 2 or 3 days in Winchester, Virginia. And it's a series of shorts and feature-length films. There's I think he's got a couple producers coming out this year. But that's like the big event we work on, and he's been pushing some other kind of film festivals and music stuff he's been working on. But our podcast, we talk about horror movies and any mental health themes that might come up. And we had you, Andy, on for Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think early last year.
Yeah,
We got to talking about what alternate medicines and treatments for mental health stuff.
Oh, it was we went way deep on that. We talked about geopolitical conflicts of the day and talked about the factual parts of the time era.
Yeah,
where they kind of interweaved it with the story, and then we went down the whole heroin and addiction, and it was I had a lot of fun, man. And I'm not a big fan of the horror genre.
yeah, and it's something. It's funny. There's a meme I saw the other day. It's like horror fans all started, and they're talking about how they got into it. It's like, yeah, it all started when I saw The Exorcist when I was 5. I got started at it when I saw Poltergeist when I was like 5 or 6. That was my entry into horror.
Yeah,
And
that was my
it
first movie too.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck. It's become my go-to most of the time, followed closely by like sci-fi and action.
Andy and I read the Exorcist book that the movie's based off of.
Well, I mean, I think Andy's old enough. He remembers it being released in the theater, doesn't he?
Hurtful, but yes.
My thing is, there's movies like The Exorcist and Chainsaw Massacre and Amityville Horror that I wish I could have been around to have seen when they were new. Because now the market is just so flooded, and remake after remake and sequel after sequel, that I'd like to know what it was like to see some of these things when they came out and people hadn't seen them before.
Mark, I'll tell you, I saw that movie and I was like, okay, I enjoyed it, right? Which I think is why I enjoy Constantine with John. Yeah, but that's but
I got a funny story.
I was gonna say
too.
Yeah, comic book fanboy aside, that movie sucks. Fanboy up front, I loved it. I thought it was great.
So if you don't read the comics, the movie is great. If you know the comic book character, it's basically Gregory House.
Yeah, it was
cult
terrible.
leader.
Yeah.
Is the comic book character. He's just an asshole to everybody. He's I mean, the comic book house is, or the comic book Constantine is nothing like the Keanu Reeves Constantine.
Right, right. So what we're getting at is it the book for that the Exorcist is based off of is insane.
Yeah,
It's not a fiction book. It's when the Vatican authorizes an exorcism, it's required to record it like a court recording. And
right.
so these are the actual recorded notes from the day. And Andy, please jump in here in a second, but I had to stop reading it for a sec for at points, and it's very short. It's very short, but I had to stop personally because you're reading a factual account where they're like, a brother present, sister present, prayer started at Deus Libre, scratch starts shoulder, rose down 7 inches, blood seen. I mean, it's just very matter of fact, laid out, and it's just freaky because it's real.
Well, they had to. There were some instances in like the early, mid to early 1900s. One of them was turned into an extremely famous movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, where it actually took place, I think, in Germany or Austria, is where the actual events took place.
Yeah, it was
And
in Deutschland.
yeah, they started trying to perform an exorcist on this girl that had stopped her epilepsy medication, and she was like an epileptic, and all ends up dying of like malnutrition and fatigue or something like that. And the priest ended up facing charges, and there was a bunch of people found guilty of various stuff, and the church was one of them. So they had to start documenting everything that happened and how it happened. That specific instance wasn't the actual reason, but there was a series of cases that happened like that off and on through like the early 1900s.
Right, right. They did say that that was a you know that that was already a practice in place. Like you
Yeah,
just start documenting. It was a guy, not a girl. You know,
in The Exorcist, for The
yeah, yeah,
Exorcist.
that was exercised. It was a boy. They made it a
Yeah,
girl to help hide his identity, which is
yeah,
still hidden. But Andy, by all means,
Yeah, unlike you, I ate that. I ate it up, man. I sat down and I read right through the whole thing, and it, like Lou said, it's short, so you get through it in a day easily. I think I was probably 2.5 hours. I was done. I was engrossed in it. I couldn't put it down.
yeah. I never got the chance, and it's not so much that I don't like reading. I have a little bit of trouble reading sometimes. Like words, I'll have to read like a sentence two or three times because words will start getting jumbled up, or they just have no meaning, things like that. So I'm not a quick reader. There's books I want to read, but I end up ultimately getting a book on tape because
yeah,
it's easier for me to take in.
Now who's old? Who says
yeah.
book on tape?
Ma-
Whatever.
Mark, they asked him, and fill in my gaps, Andy. But they asked the kid, he was particularly violent one day. And they were like, what's happening?" And he said, "I'm in a fight, but I think I can win. I need to get back in there." He's like, "I need to get back in there. I can do this. I can do this." He's like, they're slippery, but I know I can beat it." And then the
Yeah.
third time, so they let him go. Then when it's over, when it's all said and done, they ask the kid what happened. And I'll try to recount it as best I can. So spoiler alert if you're gonna go read it. But they asked the kid what happened. And he said they were fighting in front of a cave, and he was telling the demon to go away. The demon was saying it was going to stay. He said a being descended in white robes with flowing red hair that he couldn't quite say was on fire, but couldn't quite say was hair. He said the robe was skin tight, but was flowing in the seams, like sort of where it would have tied off at.
Yeah.
He had a sword of fire and told the demon to go back and that it would not say it again. And the demon went back into the cave, bars dropped down, and one of the seven deadly sins scrolled across the top. I forget which one, greed or gluttony.
I don't
Or
remember either.
yeah, but and then and
Yeah.
then and then the being said you'll be fine and then left and the kid has not had an incident since. But was that sort of the recount, Andy?
Yeah, he definitely has not, because he's actually dead now. But whatever.
So that was the account from the book?
That was the account from the
No.
book. That's what the boy
No,
told
not from the book. That was the account from the actual exorcism itself. That the book, this guy had, Peter Blatty had found out about this story, and he actually was able to have access to the notes that we just read, and that's where he came up with the story.
That's cool. I didn't know that about the book. I'm more familiar with the movie and Reagan and Your Mother Cooks Socks in Hell and The Dyslexorcist.
Wait a minute. How did you know?
We always laugh. Me and my wife saw a joke about The Exorcist called The Dyslexorcist, and it was Your Mother Cooks Socks in Hell.
So, you know what? I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but stay relatively on the same topic. There's, ghost hunting is like super popular.
Yes.
And they've got these spirit boxes, and to me it looks like you could 3D print them in your basement, you know what I mean? So that gave me a thought. I'm like, man, how cool and how hilarious would it be to print, make some of those, but you put something in there, it's pre-recorded, and it just goes off automatically, and it says that exact line, "Your mother sucks cock in hell." How freaking hilarious would that be?
So I kind of watch a lot of that stuff too, and I pick it apart because a lot of it's like, okay, everything happens out of the corner of your eye, which means you're not really seeing it. It's the light screwing with your vision in low light and stuff. So yeah, I know what spirit boxes are, unfortunately.
Look, let me tell you,
I know about all their tools and stuff.
So I have gone ghost hunting. I have started a documentary, and I'm pretty close to finishing up. It's been a couple-year project, actually. Friends of mine who've actually been on this show have a I don't know what you want to call it, like a paranormal investigating team, group, whatever.
Yeah.
So I've gone with them, and that's who I basically am making the documentary on. Well, huge skeptic, and that's why I wanted to go. I'm a huge skeptic, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to go, and I wanted to say, number one, I wanted to show, hey, look, it isn't all what you see on TV, number one. Number two, I'm a skeptic, but I kind of want to believe, you know what I mean? So I'm open-minded enough to go, but and then I just wanted to document the whole process, really. And the last place I went was last year. We went to Edinburgh Manor in Iowa, and it's an old poor farm that was an asylum. It opened its doors in the 1840s and closed them for the last time in 2010. So there's been a lot of poor souls that have gone through there.
Well, that's the thing. If you think about it, you can be a skeptic all day long. I don't know how much of it is real, how much of it is fake, how much of it is coincidence. So I'm not going to say I believe that like everything they find, like fucking Zach Baggins.
Yeah, you can throw that out in the toilet.
But you take places like old asylums or some of these older prisons and hospitals and things like that, and the amount of suffering and death that took place in places like that, almost you have to think something has to happen there. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in a place like that.
And let's be honest, there were sexual assaults, all kinds of just bad stuff. But I got to tell you, man, the last time I went, I took my service dog Alma with me, and there was. Wow. I got to tell you, I'm no longer a skeptic because there were some things that happened that time that I can't explain, and you can't fake animals reacting to something.
Yeah, when you see something and your animal reacts to it too in the exact same direction, yeah. Oh, I've seen that.
You're both gay.
Not as gay as you are. Not as gay as you are. However, I'm just saying, I can't explain what happened. I'm not saying I'm a full reborn believer in it, but I don't know, man. I can't explain that stuff.
So if you're in a place like that, like some of these old places will actually do tours now. If you're in a
Yes.
place like that and you're on a tour and you're walking and you think you see something walk by, now imagine doing that same thing. You think you see something walk by and suddenly your dog perks up at attention watching in that same exact path that something you thought you saw walk by. That dog's not reacting to your imagination.
Right. Well, let me tell you what. There was about four of us. Now we were in this. We had the whole building to ourselves for the entire weekend. So there, we knew 100% there was nobody else in the building or even on the property. So we're sitting and there was four of us sitting together in the basement with the dog, and we heard a growl. And it wasn't my dog. I had my hand on her, and she stood up and she got in between me and wherever the noise came from, and she was tracking something. And the only reason I know that is because I had the night vision on the camera, pitch dark, man. And then there was a couple other incidents just like that. And then I took her out to go potty. I couldn't get her back in the building for like 5 minutes. She did not want to go in. And
Well,
Lou knows my dog. She doesn't want to be anywhere, without me. It was
yeah,
wild,
they've
man.
gotten since I moved to like the Mississippi, Tennessee area. There's a couple places I want to visit just for that reason. Like there's a couple things involved with the Bell Witch. There's a couple sites in Central Tennessee for that, and there's an abandoned um, prison that's up in the mountains of Tennessee, and it's like almost fortress style. There's like one way in, and it's surrounded by mountains. So you good?
I had it on mute. Sorry.
Ah, there you
It's
go.
like watching kung fu theater on Sundays back in the day.
But yeah, I'd like to visit some of those places. I know you can. They do overnights at the the actual Conjuring house. You can actually rent it out and do overnight visits and weekend visits there. They open it up to rent and do investigations. So you could say, "Oh, I hung out in the original Conjuring house." Um, I think that would be cool too, just to see.
Oh, and for those that I wouldn't believe me, if I were listening to what I just said, but I got it on video, so buzzing,
Right.
buzzing, and that will be, in the documentary. Yes, I've had people ask, "Are you going to try to sell it?" Nah, man, I'm just going to put it on YouTube, let people watch it.
Yeah.
Dude, you don't know how many like investigations and videos I watch of that stuff on YouTube. That's the place to watch it.
Well, I used to be stationed on the USS Constitution, which is the Navy's like
Whoa! All right,
300.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
Stand by for story time because Lou's got some good ones when it comes to the Constitution.
Oh. Well, but anyway, I was stationed. It's the Navy's oldest ship, right? Oldest commissioned warship afloat in the world, right? That's how my tour used to follow me, folks, and touch nothing. Um, but but I've told this before, and I'll tell you now that you're here, Mark. So, but I used to coordinate the Boy Scout program, and Boy Scouts troops, and they may still do this. I don't know. I haven't been there in years, but it's worth a call to their public affairs office. If you're listening and you're affiliated with the Boy Scouts and or scouting BSA, they'll let you stay overnight on the ship. And so I used to coordinate that where troops would come up to Boston, do the Freedom Trail, and then spend the night on the ship, and then they'd be off by 10 a.m. the next day. We'd give them a special tour, um, whatever. So the adults would sleep in the officer quarters, and the scouts would sleep on the berthing deck. And three troops, completely unrelated from three different areas of the country, had the same story to tell me the next morning because I always stayed with them along with another sailor. Um, that at about 2, 3 a.m., um, an officer comes in and looks like basically it gets cold. The sound of gunfire is heard, and then an officer comes in uniform and starts searching around the room. And then as he searches, he finds whatever it is he's looking for. And then he turns to the person staying there and tells them it'll be okay, or signals that. They never hear it, but they know that that's what he's communicating is it'll be okay. And then he runs out, and then that's it. And I've had that story told to me 3 times by completely unrelated people, and you cannot find it on the internet. I mean, unless I told it.
Yeah.
Just now.
Well, we don't talk about it much, but in our old house back in Chesapeake, we know there was one, if not possibly 2 deaths in the house. But we had at different times, and it wasn't until later, all of us had seen the same thing at different times.
Yeah.
I went walking down the hallway one time and saw what looked like some woman in like a white nightgown and long hair walk across the end of the hall, like right in front of me. I was like, what the fuck? And just kind of stopped.
Did you hit it?
No.
Yeah, with a proton pack.
So I was like, what the fuck? And I walked down the end of the hall and looked, and there was nobody in the end of the house at all. We were all up in the living room. And it was like, okay, so maybe I'm just losing it.
Yeah.
And then like a couple weeks later, I started working from home at that time, working remote. And I was sitting there working and thought I saw somebody walk towards the front door. And when I looked, there was nothing there. But like Andy's experience, our dog had perked up and was right behind it.
Yeah.
So then I find out later, my daughter had been seeing the same figure in the house. And my wife had seen it a couple times too. I think my brother, who had taken care of our dog a couple times on vacation, I think he said he had seen it as well.
Yeah.
So we're like, it's just, were we all nuts, or were we all seeing something, or was there like a CO2 leak or something, a carbon monoxide leak?
No.
We all, and we finally all started talking about it. It was like, dude, there was something going on in there.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that when we go on these investigations, I talk the most shit. I you know what? On the off chance that ghosts are real or whatever you want to call them, I'm sure that they get sick and tired of the same old stupid shit, right? So I'll go and hey man, what's your favorite beer? What'd you drink? You know, or were you a boob man, a butt man, a leg guy? I mean, come on, talk to me here. And I can't believe that they actually invite me back every time because, you know, I do kind of, I don't take it all that seriously, I guess. But at the same time, I've had some shit happen that I'm like, I don't know, man.
Have you guys seen, this is the perfect segue to talk about it, and I'll talk about it anytime I want. Or anytime I get a chance, not anytime I want, right? Between this and pushing Godzilla -1, which if you haven't seen it, it's the greatest movie ever made. But if you guys ever, well, do you guys remember the old Saturday Night Live skit, Godzilla -1, where they used to like repeat things, Godzilla -1? It was subliminal suggestion, man, Godzilla -1. And guys want to see a
lot
movie?
of people that I know a lot of people that saw it. I know a lot of people that went back and saw it when they re-released it in black and white.
Yeah.
I know people that saw it multiple times in each version.
I saw it was great, but no, what I'm talking about is, and because my wife gets so mad at me for talking about Godzilla -1 only to Japanese people in our neighborhood.
Racist.
I totally am out there, and I'm like, have you seen it? But long story longer, Skinwalker Ranch. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah. Oh, we're back on this again.
Yes. Yes. I can't let it go. I cannot let, there is something there. I cannot let it go.
But there's too much TV production in it to make me take it as serious as I probably should.
What production though? I mean, like I understand what you're saying, but like the experiments are just, they're getting bigger. I mean, they need bigger crews to cover them.
Yeah, but it's at the same time, it's for TV. It's kind of like reality TV. Everybody knows it's scripted, but it's reality TV. And I can't help but wonder, as much as I watched that series like 3 or 4 times, seasons 1 through 3, because 4 hasn't made it to Hulu.
Yes,
I know.
it
I'm
has.
waiting. Is it?
When?
Season 4 on Hulu?
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
When?
I just watched the damn thing.
I'm about to end this podcast. Hey, our sponsor this hour, or whatever.
We're
Oh,
gonna
look, I'll
find out.
verify that.
Well, monitors. I can look.
Do it.
That's it's worth it. That is worth it.
So
It's worth the break.
that's kind of what I like about it, though, in a way, because yeah, I agree with you. It's scripted, most parts of it.
I think so.
But you can, it's obvious that they're not actors.
When they get caught by surprise, they get. Look, I mean, it seems to me to be the genuine deal.
But going back to what you had mentioned last week, Lou, is you can tell that they're not actors just by when they have to do their phone call, their little acting bit.
Oh, it's terrible.
They're so uncomfortable and so obviously that, or they're the best actors in the world and they're fooling us all.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I got a great idea for a character. I'll play a guy who can act, but is pretending not to act by acting as a bad actor, being a good one.
And there's only 3 seasons. There's only 3 seasons on Hulu.
What the hell?
Maybe Amazon. Maybe you can buy it. Maybe you can buy it.
I don't know,
Possibly.
man. I could have sworn I just watched the 4th season.
I don't know, but that's
I know this.
trippy.
I asked when is the 4th season coming out, and it told me there's plans for a 5th.
Right.
Little spy in the back.
All I can say is
okay. So y'all might
hell of a drug.
y'all might be able to enjoy it as much as I did. Is Hellier? Have you ever seen Hellier?
Hellier?
no, never even
Yes.
heard of it. What is it?
Oh, it's a team of paranormal investigators. It's they're documenting. It starts off where they get some emails from a guy saying he wants some help. These things keep showing up in his backyard, and that's how the whole thing starts off.
Is this like a legit or?
Yeah, it's a legit documentary series. It's 2 seasons. They're apparently finally working on season 3.
Wow.
But
Where can we find it?
I'm not sure if it's still on Amazon. I know it's on Screenbox. Helier, I think is how it's spelled.
Okay.
But it covers the gamut from UFOs, numerology, aliens, paranormal, you name it, they cover it. And the more they investigate, the more coincidences happen and the more like weird shit involved with this investigation. And it all revolves around I think it's Hellier, Kentucky is where the whole thing starts. So it's really cool. It's that same style documentary, but and at one point they have one of the guys they're using a spirit box, and he's the only one that can hear it. So he's got the headset on, noise canceling headset. He's got goggles on, so he can't see anything. So everybody else is asking questions. And all of a sudden, he starts responding to the questions from what he's hearing from the spirit box.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I don't put a lot of faith in those spirit boxes, man.
Well, they supposedly the way they work is they cycle through the radio stations that they can pick up. And the words that they supposedly play could be influenced by the spirits in the area, or at least that's the claim. Whether they actually work or not, I think people are reading into a lot of it.
I'm just going to go on the record and say bullshit.
That's
just
what.
me.
Oh yeah, that's what they claim, and I think a lot of people hear what they want to hear. Because I've heard some of these tapes that they're like, "Oh, check out this EVP," and you listen to it, it's like, "Are you here?" Oh, he said, "My name is Bob. Nice to meet you." Like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything. I heard somebody at Taco Bell destroying the bathroom. But
Sounds like you got some Claudine gays out there in the spirit world.
I have enough trouble hearing as it is. I can't ever hear what they're saying those things say.
Yeah, most of the time you can't. Or if there's something there, it sounds like it could be static that that the pattern of the static they're interpreting to be something that it's not.
Or there's just no shit radio commercials or something. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you know you're not picking up like a broadcast from a plane flying over?
Right.
they're picking up the radio signal off their radio or something.
Well, that's that, and Andy, we have experience with that in the military, man. You use SATCOM, you know, or I shouldn't say SATCOM. I'm sorry. You're using line of sight radios when it's cloudy, man. You could ping it further, right?
Yeah.
When it's cloudy, it goes further, right?
Yeah.
Because it
Which
bounces.
is weird. You
Yeah,
would think it would be the opposite.
yeah. So we know. I know weather extends the signal in a lot of like I know different things can affect radio signal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's my thing. A lot of these things, they're like, "Oh, it's a ghost." It's like,
Right,
how do you know
right.
you're not picking up an AM radio station from the town over?
Right.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Sometimes it's just
So
weird bounce,
Or
weird stuff you get. Background.
there's a lot of these ham radio operators that their systems are real powerful, and they'll
Yes.
bleed over into just about anything.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know a guy that does a bunch of ham radio stuff. That's like his big hobby.
Hmm.
So he loves doing that. He talks about all the stuff. He was telling me how they had I forgot what country he was talking to somebody from, but there was like a revolt going on,
Oh,
and
shit.
everything was shut down communication wise except the ham operators because
Yep.
they couldn't get to them specifically.
Well, they're
And-
certainly not having any sex. So I
Unless
mean,
it's
I
with
guess
themselves.
they're free to operate ham radios all night, relaying Russian grid coordinates.
That's
But yeah,
funny.
he was telling me how he was getting like basically rundowns of what was going on in some of these countries because he knew he had contacted some of these people and he was getting their signals back, and they were talking about, yeah, they're moving through this area, and he was listening to them broadcast around, and because he was able to get the signal from somebody he knew. So it's kind of neat.
They're
Well, I
actually a
guess there
part
was
of
no-
disaster. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say, I guess there's no crypto on those radios then.
Yeah.
Probably not, and it's
But
probably from
they're pretty
country that-
good. I think
it's
they're
prob-
part of the disaster response system, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep plowing through though.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Someone
That's
has to. So anyway, no, but I know the ham radio operators. I took a crack at them, but I know they were part of disaster response because of their ability to get pretty far and relay messages, and they're pretty resourceful. I mean, I think there's been episodes throughout history regarding the ham operator radios doing pretty phenomenal things.
Yeah, I know he's got some portable ones that he'll take his lunch break. He's a field technician, and he travels all over the Hampton Roads area in Virginia. And he'll take his portable radio with him, and on his lunch break, go over to like a park and sit down in the park and start using it right there in the middle of yeah. So that's his big thing.
You said
You know,
Hampton
I
Roads.
actually-
Yeah,
Oh, who?
Virginia Beach, Norfolk.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Hampton Roads. Yeah, so like so at lunch after he takes his antivirals.
He's actually, it's so funny because I'm this long hair into death metal and all kinds of nerdy shit. And he's like 65-year-old ex-Navy. And I talk to him off and on all the time. He helped train me in the field that I'm in. And he calls me now on stuff. He's like, how do I do this on my network? It's like,
So whenever you talk to them, does they always say over?
not usually. So it's,
I have trouble hearing him under tunnels.
he told me he worked on aircraft carriers, and I think he helped direct them for takeoffs, and he was also working on them as a mechanic, the jets.
Was
different
he a
planes.
member of the Village People?
No. No. But I
Never
make
know.
fun of him frequently for being a northerner. So
He's got a terrible scar of a burn on his left arm. Said he was on the Forrestal.
Damn. That was
So-
painful. Yeah, dude, I tell you, I have one of those little ham portable radios,
Really?
Yeah.
and I have it because when I go camping or wherever I'm at, I have it as a backup. Because a lot of places I go, there's no cell signal. So, just never know, man. I don't have a license for it, but
Well, I mean, with the way crap is going, I could see stuff like that becoming more and more useful because the Waffle House factor isn't going to last, but so long.
Yeah.
If we have a collapse, You do know about that, right?
No,
Really? You haven't heard
no.
about the what? Oh, sweet. Okay. I love telling this story because it's hilarious. It's so the government actually uses the Waffle Houses in disaster areas to tell how bad it is because Waffle Houses stay open for, you can look it up if you think I'm full of shit. If the Waffle Houses stay open for everything. So if a hurricane comes through and plows through like Florida and Georgia and shit, they check the available hours of the Waffle House to tell how bad it hit that specific area. If they're still open for normal business, it wasn't that bad. If they're
I do know
limited
that to
hours,
be true.
yeah. Yeah. If they have limited hours or shut down, shit hit the fan when that hurricane came through.
You know, not last November, 2 Novembers ago, I went down to Florida to umpire in a big tournament, and lo and behold, hurricane came through and hit that Thursday. So we got stuck in the hotel for a while, but the only thing that was open was Publix and Waffle House.
When was
You could
that?
November of not last year, the year before.
you can
Last
make
year.
fun.
Oh, okay.
People can make fun of Waffle House all they want, but it's the only place you can go and like eat for like $12 and take home food
Dude, when I
and
yeah.
not shit yourself like if you went to Taco Bell.
No, but there's always things like, I don't know, hepatitis to worry about in that damn
Yeah.
place.
You see Waffle House is wilding out on Twitter, man. People fighting in there all the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But well, I was in Lejeune in '96 when Andrew, I think, came through. And we were on Johnson, staying on Johnson. I was in field med school. We were emptying trash cans of water every hour and a half. The buildings were so effed. Dudes were trying to still smoke in the hurricane. I didn't smoke at that time. They were trying to smoke in the hurricane. I'm like, this is insane.
Right.
But
It's the,
I remember it tore up the base, and I'm from Pennsylvania. I've never hunted, right? So if you ask me how to hunt deer, I have no idea, right? And people always find that weird. But I can camp, right? I know how to go out and camp, and I know how to do all that, right? I just never hunted a deer before in my life. Um, so I'm pretty out, but I am pretty outdoorsy, right? So I remember walking around and there's a dead deer, and I'm like, that is unusual, in a hurricane to see a dead deer, man. Right? And there's two reasons I remember seeing that dead deer and thinking that is unusual, because dude starts yelling at me. The sergeant starts yelling at me like, yo, if you don't want to get extended, this shit needs to be cleaned up in 3 days. Right. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. And I just told him, I said, it's unusual to see a dead deer in a storm. And he looked over. This is why it's burned in my head. He looked over and he was like, yeah, that is unusual. Get the fuck back to work. I was like, ah. Yes, Sergeant.
that's hilarious. It reminds me of the typhoon parties
They
you used to
had
have in Okinawa, man.
Mm.
It's
that's
stupid
someplace I'd
Marines
like to
get
visit. Is there?
Okinawa. Hope you like the
Yeah.
smell of pig shit. I think Lou just almost killed Lou on that one.
I think some of it came out his nose. It was enough to mute him. So
I tell you, Okinawa is a cool
Oh my
place.
God. What did you say? What I thought you said?
Hope you like the smell of pig shit.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay.
Am I not spot on or what?
Oh wow, yeah, I hadn't heard that in a while.
That's the first thing you smell when you get off the plane, man.
Oh,
Oh my God.
beautiful place. Beautiful place.
talk about
But man,
hurricanes.
oh wow.
Some of the response and the way they help people, and I know people in Hawaii are like, shut the fuck up, but they had some of those hurricanes come up through the Gulf last year.
Yeah.
One of them went over top of where my uncle is in southern Georgia. He's like about as far south into the swamp as you can get.
Yeah.
And a tree came down across the end of his trailer. He lived in the middle of the swamp, and they still have not fixed his trailer.
Yeah.
And that was in like the end of the summer of last year. So he's
Not
just got like
surprised.
half of his trailer is just tarped off to keep the weather out. And he's got like his heaters in his room and still waiting on stuff to get rebuilt. And they're, oh yeah, we're getting to you. We're trying to get to you. So
The one thing I've learned after 3+ decades of government service is that I don't trust them at all. If they can screw you over, they will. Guaranteed.
and if
Yeah.
they can make $1 doing it, they'll do it quicker.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're not really screwing. It's like not about screwing you over. They're just hooking themselves up.
Yeah.
Well, I think Reagan said it best. The 8 most dangerous words in the English
Oh, yeah,
language
yeah.
are
I'm from the
I'm from the government.
here
I'm
to
here to
help.
help. Yeah.
Yeah. What if it exists? Tax it. If it moves, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it.
That's right.
I saw an interesting thing talking about the last basically the end of Rome and comparing it to what's going on now in America. And it's like that's kind of scary when you start comparing the events and how everything went.
Sure.
Nobody ever Rome was one of the few empires that was never conquered. They may have lost some battles, but they basically just collapsed on themselves.
So I just finished a book. Oh crap. On the Pyrenees, right? Like the Pyrrhic Wars. You
Okay.
know how they say Pyrrhic victory, right? And so you had them versus the Roman Empire, and they were just talking about how the Romans were structured, and they were saying it was a very interesting structure. If you were a senator, you had to have money or reputation. It was always great to have both. So it was in your best interest to fight well, to be brave, to command well, to have a following, right? It never and when you get to that Senate position, when you get elected to that position, uh they said no, there was no thought of Game of Thrones. Like there was none of that, for the longest time in the Roman Empire. Because the senators knew in order to maintain order, they had to be able to rely on each other and to count on each other. So they couldn't start screwing each other because each senator is expected to be a general. So every senator is a general. So they have to rely on each other. They have to. And so the thoughts of like that type of tyranny had never entered into their minds at that time. They said that's how the Romans were able to expand because people just knew this is a house of cards. If you fuck with it, no one will. Well, no, there won't be putting it back together. If we all play our role, we're good.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. There's quite a few times throughout 240, 250, 240 something years of the US, it's been referred to as the modern Rome.
Sure.
Nobody's beat us. Nobody's conquered the US. We're going to end up conquering ourselves eventually.
Correct.
With the way things are going.
Real close to it. They say history, if you study history or if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat it. Well, I disagree. I think history is cyclical and it's bound to repeat regardless.
Yeah, because people don't pay attention to what happened to begin with, or they do and go, well, it's not going to happen to me, and do it anyways.
Yeah, I have said many times on this show, I believe that Rome is burning.
Oh yeah,
We're
yeah,
in trouble.
it is.
Well, but something, I take solace in two things, right? If you study history, one is something better always comes, right? So yeah, it does kind of suck that it's happening while we're here. Yeah, that does suck. But something better comes, right? It's just throughout history, that's what it's always been. And I think the other
Okay.
thing is, at some point, and this happens every time to every empire, right? Once it becomes an empire, at some point, those like the Bill Gateses of the world, his grandchildren will be drug out of the castle and beheaded.
Oh yeah.
That's what happens.
But not always. You have look at Russia. They went from the USSR. They broke up into multiple countries throughout Eastern Europe and Northern Europe, And are they better off today than they were under the USSR?
Well,
They're
they were
still
they
essentially a
were an
communist
empire
country.
at first, and they were far better under the Tsar system.
Oh yeah,
You know,
and,
until
until
Rasputin
they
got
went
in there and
communist.
they had a weak Tsar.
Dude, Rasputin. Have you done research
Yes,
on
yes,
Rasputin?
Oh
lots.
yes.
That is a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah. So
And
here's what I've uncovered
apparently
from the most recent.
they
Oh,
have
go ahead.
Hey, why don't you guys
apparently-
talk over each other some more? That's cool.
apparently they have his wiener in a glass jar in a museum over there in Russia too. So yeah.
Look at this, a pickle, honey.
Yeah, they took it on tour. They took it on tour. It's been on tour many times. Yeah. So first of all, everything we know about him is all false, right? It's all false. It's all stories. It's all made up. Every person, he was never poisoned. That's the first thing they discovered when this guy really dug into the history of Rasputin. Every person who was supposed to have poisoned him at some point in their life confessed to switching the poison out, to getting cold feet. At some point, every one of them. In fact, to the point where he was supposed to be double poisoned and they both retracted. He said so, and they both admitted retracting. Like the one guy said, I couldn't go through with it. And then the other guy said, I couldn't let the other guy go through with it either. So they both like took theirs and what they thought the other guy was doing off. Like, so he ended up eating like these dry ass cupcakes because like the first like 10 batches went in the trash. Like nobody poisoned this guy. Nobody. Which is why they had to shoot him 3 times. And throw him in the lake.
Then throw him in a river.
Yes, they chained him up and threw him in a river because they thought people had poisoned him. We have hindsight. But at the time they were like, this guy.
Right. Just won't fucking die.
Yeah. But so I finished a book on him a couple years ago, and man, it was so interesting. It led me to a couple other books.
He's such an underrated historical figure. They haven't done a lot about him, to tie it back into earlier conversations, in movies. They either deal heavily in the mysticism that surrounded him. Alan Rickman did a movie where he played Rasputin for an HBO movie back in, I think, the 90s. Other than that, I don't know of too many movies other than the occasional half-assed documentary about Rasputin.
Yeah, you can find documentaries on, I don't know if you can find them on Netflix anymore, but Netflix, Prime, go all over YouTube, you can find stuff. But you're running the risk of inaccuracies.
Yeah. Now, you want to see a crazy documentary? Are y'all fans of like serial killers and stuff, or serial killer documentaries?
Depends.
So they did a series, HBO had a series in, I think, the late 80s where they talked to Kuklinski.
Oh. The Iceman?
And
Yeah, Stanley Kuklinski,
Yes.
the Iceman. Yeah.
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 And it's a psychologist that sat down with him for a couple sessions and interviewed him. And during the minute, there's like 2 or 3 of them on HBO, or I guess it's Max now. And one of them, I forgot what the psychologist asked him, but he asked him something, and you see Kuklinski stop and look at him. And if you've seen pictures of him, like them the bailiffs bringing him into jail, he was a huge man. So there's nothing they could have done to stop him from coming over that table with that doctor. And he asked him something, and he stops and looks at him. And he goes, "You almost did it." He goes, "Did what?" "You almost set me off. I've killed people for less than that." And you could just kind of feel that doctor over there like, oh, shit. And it's just he's interviewing him and asking him a question he didn't like. And they are super interesting documentaries to watch.
That'd have been great for ratings.
Oh, yeah. They're only like 50, 60 minutes a piece, and there's 2 or 3 of them.
I watched him on YouTube.
Yeah.
What would have made it even better if he would have come across the table, and then you get one of the guards jumping in there saying, "World Star!"
But yeah, they don't even know how many people he took
No,
out.
they don't. No, I think I
He
think
just
they think, or he claims, but they cannot dispute. Over 200. Over
yeah,
200 that I heard.
Damn.
They started asking him, and he said he thinks over 250, but he's not sure.
That's a yeah,
He would
yeah.
just he would just kill somebody to test the method to see how effective it was.
And that's the thing. He was called the Iceman not because he didn't use an ice pick. He would
He froze
freeze the
them.
body because the FBI didn't have forensic technology that it has today. So he would freeze the body in a mob freezer until he had an alibi, and then he would thaw it out that night, and that, like, leave it in the, so when it was found, it would look like it died when he was out of town. That
And they
Yeah.
figured out what was going on because they couldn't date when the
Yeah, he
bodies
started getting
died.
sloppy too. He started leaving half frozen bodies, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how they finally caught him,
Yeah.
was they found one of his bodies and it still had ice in it. They're like, "Oh shit, this guy's killing people and freezing them."
Yeah.
I
Like they
bet you
didn't.
he doesn't even know how many people he's killed.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't sound sure when they talk to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound positive
He
that
was
it's
using.
250,
Yeah, he was
but
using
he knows it's a
cyanide.
lot. Oh, he used all
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
But they specifically were talking about him using cyanide before they knew you could, before they even thought of that. Like he said,
Yeah,
that's
he
how he
said
was. They weren't even testing for it because nobody knew you could use it like that.
he said he had a spray can of like cyanide or
Oh
arsenic or
yeah.
something, and he just walked by a guy in a
Yep.
restaurant and just on his arm and kept going.
And then go sit
Jeez.
at the end of the bar and watch him die. Remember, he was talking about
Yeah,
that. He said sometimes I'd sit at the end of the bar, order a beer, and watch him.
I got to check
yeah,
that out.
oh yeah, they're excellent. It's so, like I've seen some people that have watched it that it's like it's just too much because it's the person confessing and
Yeah,
telling you in detail things that they did. He went to go into a nightclub one time, and a guy pissed him off in line while he was waiting. And the guy stumbled around to the side of the bar into the alley to go take a pee. And he's so big, he walked around behind him and grabbed him by his tie and picked him up over his shoulder. And he as he describes it, I was the tree for hanging him.
Damn.
hmm
Well, I know
He
what I'm
just
doing
picked him.
tonight.
Yeah.
yeah.
Going down another rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, serial killers is just another one of those topics they've almost made like a celebrity kind of worship
Have you heard
in
about
modern times.
the lady serial killer? I did a book on her,
Eileen
Annabelle.
Warnos.
No,
There's a bunch of them.
I'd have to pull it up. She was the first. She was marrying dudes and 86 in them on her ranch.
Damn.
Oh, the Black Widow. I forgot what her name is, but I know what you're talking about.
Belle
Uh,
Ganes. Belle Ganes. Belle Ganes is her
okay.
name. Belle Ganes.
No, I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
that
Belle
one.
Ganes. She's attributed to a ton, man, and would write letters home and everything to the family. Like she was nuts, man.
Damn.
Killed her two
H.
children, her husband, two children, and then uh,
H. Holmes. Did you ever read about him?
no, no.
Yes.
So one of the interesting things was the killings of Jack the Ripper stopped about the time he showed up in the U.S.
Yeah.
So there is a theory that H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Could
But still,
could could
it,
be.
It's
he
plausible.
built he built like the Hotel of Horrors, where it was designed like a maze. They had like trap doors into torture pits and all kinds
The
of
Henry
crap.
House,
Yeah,
that nutty ass lady,
Oh, the
the guy's
Winchester
name was
House.
H.
or
Holmes.
Winchester.
Yeah,
Henry
no,
Winchester. Yeah, that's close.
yeah, he built the house specifically to capture people and torture and murder them.
Yeah,
Nice
man.
guy.
Where she was building an endless amount of rooms and maze like house to keep the ghosts from getting to her of the victims of the
Right,
Winchester
right.
rifles.
Yeah, to confuse them. Yeah,
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
batshit crazy.
yeah.
Whew. Wow. Anyway, hey, uh-oh. We know what that means.
I do.
It's time. It's time for our Veterans Helping Veterans segment. What you got for us, Lou?
Andy, you're gonna love this one. It's near and dear, and we're all aware of it. And if you're a veteran who's served overseas, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about and go, damn, I always forget about them at given time. But good old Lou's here to bring it up for you. Pinups for Vets. We've all received their playing cards. We've all tried to get 2 or 3 decks, one so we could give as a gift, for free while you're over there. And if you didn't know it, though, you don't have to be serving overseas to get them. You can support them by going to their website, Pinups for Vets, and get yourself one of those decks of playing cards for $22. They also have posters, blankets, and all kinds of other things, products. But Pinups for Vets, definitely one of those organizations that's out there serving and always make sure there's something for the vets. Tasteful photos. You won't find anything nude. That is one of the big things about the website. One of the things they want everyone to know about. There's no nudity or anything like that. It's all fully clothed pictures. But Pinups for Vets, check it out and pick up one of their products if you can.
Nice. Well done, sir. Well, you know what? It's about that time we wrap things up. Mark, I'd really want to thank you for coming on the show. Had some fun conversations this evening talking about whatever we wanted to, which was really cool. So thanks, dude. And next time we'll get Josh on the show too.
Yeah, I've already talked to him about it. He wants to work it out. It was just we couldn't get him in last minute. He had too much to do.
No worries. Life happens.
He had to get a couple movie review edited and posted and things like that. So we just got to go ahead.
Where can people find the podcast at?
So Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast, is on pretty much any podcast where you can find them, Spotify, all that stuff. We're actually coming up on our 100th episode in, I think, March.
Very cool.
And been running, I think, 3 or 4 years now.
Nice.
Awesome. We're getting ready to do a Omen month and cover the Omen movies coming out. So we decided we're getting ready to do an Omen theme month. Yeah, it's I think it's a prequel.
A prequel to the prequel?
So the prequel to the original. So I know they did a couple prequels to The Exorcist, but yeah, there's a new Omen coming out, and it's a prequel. So we decided
the making of Damien.
Right. Find it on Pornhub.
So yeah,
did you order pizza? No, I know.
Is that a sausage pizza?
So yeah, we've got that coming up. I think in March is when we're doing that.
So the Omen, for those that don't know, real quick, it's all about the Antichrist, and I think it's not Damien any longer. It's the Pope. I'm just what? Wait a minute. Controversy. All right,
Cardinal
Lou, I'll give you
Vagano
the
would
last
say
word.
so.
What's that?
I said Cardinal Vagano would agree.
Yeah, right. Lou, why don't you take us out and have the last word?
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks again for joining with us. We hope to see you again next week. As always, comment and click like down below, and we could bring you more of this great original content.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the Tip, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your host,